not very clear why Keir Starmer went to India. Can you see any reason why he should have gone there at this particular time?
Well, clearly, with the economy in such a desperate, dire state due to the choices that this government and the Chancellor in particular have made that have been entirely ruinous, he's out for whatever gains he can get on the trade front as possible. And, of course, he's made some gains, I suppose, around university access and setting up campuses and things. But it's all very small change when you look at the terrible condition that the economy is in, with high inflation, high living costs, unemployment, now at a 4-year high, and heading into a budget at the end of November with great uncertainty as to what taxes this Chancellor is going to be raising. But clearly taxes are going to be going up again.
Yeah, and we're also told this morning that senior doctors have warned the NHS is in a state of emergency, despite having been given £25 billion by Rachel Reeves. I mean, you know, how much worse is it going to get?
Well, this is one of the big blunders of many that the Chancellor made, was to think that by putting lots of money into some of these areas of government, they would get instant improvements. In fact, what happened particularly with the NHS and other areas is, of course, they put a lot of money in, but a lot of it has just gone into inflationary pay rises because no productivity requirements attached to, for example, the settlement at 22% for the junior doctors, or indeed 14% for the train drivers. They were just given the money, but not expected to become more efficient. And, you know, this is the kind of outcome that we're seeing here.
One of the things that people are concerned about on this show this morning is what Keir Starmer said yesterday. Let me just play you a little clip of what he said about digital ID and ask your opinion.
One of the things on digital ID that I do think we need to emphasise and make the case for, frankly, is the great benefits of digital ID. You can see from Estonia the speed with which people can access services that are available to them, which have been transformational, and there's great enthusiasm in Estonia for it. Here in India, I think it's 1 billion people have digital ID. It's been taken up on a voluntary basis in huge numbers, not least because it means that you can access your own money, make payments so much more easily than is available with others. So I think now we need to go out and make that case of the huge benefits that this will bring. There needs to be a national debate about it.
So he wants to have a national debate about it now, which he didn't want to do before. But are you concerned about the idea that he says this will enable you to access your own money? Surely we can do that anyway, can't we? Don't need digital ID for that.
Well, of course. You know, the payment system in this country, particularly with you know, digital, etc., and credit cards and debit cards, you know, has become very different from the world of cash that we were used to quite some time ago. But look, Mike, this is an expensive distraction, this whole digital ID card business. And it's all about, as you know, trying to feed into the arguments Labour are putting as to how they're going to control illegal migration. Well, we've seen 33,000 illegal migrants coming to our shore this year. So it's been going up, not coming down. And what they've really got to get right, if they're going to tackle it, is to change the arrangements around, for example, the ECHR, which we've said that we will withdraw from, so that we make sure that we are in control of who is staying here or who is being returned. And secondly, having a proper deterrent in place, such that when people come here, they know that they won't be staying here. And until you achieve that, you will not break the gangs and resolve this problem. And this government is really just doing next to nothing, tinkering around the edges with these deals with France that aren't working and so on and so forth. And that's why we're in the terrible mess that we're in, I'm afraid.
Well, that's right. I mean, we have told, I think, they've stopped announcing it now, but they've sent something like 20 people back to France on this one in, one out. And meanwhile, about 3,000 people have come since they announced the plan.
Yeah, which is no deterrent whatsoever. You're exactly right. A handful of people have been returned to France in exchange for others coming back the other way. But in the meantime, of course, as you say, vast numbers of people have come. And as long as the situation persists, that people know that if they pay traffickers money, they can get across the channel, they can come to our country, and by and large, they're not going to be intercepted and returned, then I'm afraid they're going to keep coming. And that is the simple lesson this government is failing to understand.
And what's your view on, obviously the big story this morning on the front page is all about the peace deal in Israel. It seems as though Donald Trump, effectively has done a remarkable job of bringing the people around the table. It looks as though the hostages are going to be released sometime on Monday or Tuesday. Britain seems to have been completely bypassed. It's almost as though Keir Starmer has made us an irrelevant country when it comes to global affairs, because Donald Trump clearly didn't want anything to do with Britain. The Israelis clearly don't want anything to do with Britain, given the way that he recognised Palestine as a state, the way that David Lammy threatened to arrest the Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, if he came to Britain. It's a kind of shameful place for Britain to be, isn't it?
Well, I think in relation to Israel, the government has made a number of mistakes, and you've highlighted some of them there. But as to the peace deal, look, we should really welcome the fact that we are at least in a position where hopefully very shortly the Israeli hostages will be released. We will be able to be looking at getting humanitarian aid into Gaza more effectively, and our country, of course, can play a very important role in that. We're very used to doing that kind of thing. But I think we should also be quite cautious about where this will go. We've had many stop-starts in the Middle East over many years in these kind of situations, but let's at least welcome the progress that has been made now, and hope that this does move to some kind of transitional government arrangements in Gaza that in time can lead to that two-state solution that I think most of us want to see.
You've had your party conference this week. Lots of accusations of it being, not particularly well attended, a little bit sparse when it came to people watching speeches, including your own. What sort of lessons would you say the Tories have learned this week about, where they are in the world?
Well, look, we're in a tough place, and we know that. We always knew after that punishing general election defeat that this was a journey. It wasn't going to be a quick sprint to getting back in the polls where we want to be. But I think the conference was extremely important. I'll tell you why, Mike. Before that conference, a lot of people were saying, what do the Conservatives stand for? And what are the Conservatives proposing in terms of policy? And you got a very rich diet at that conference. So in terms of borders, for example, I've already mentioned the decision to withdraw from the European Convention on Human Rights. And I think Kemi has shown huge leadership, actually, in uniting the parliamentary party and the shadow cabinet in a thoughtful way that she approached that particular issue. So we have this united position. And on the economy, of course, we made some very important statements. The first is that we will be the party of fiscal responsibility. We will live within our means. And the way we will do that is to find savings across government so that we can bear down on the debt that is getting out of control. But I went still further by making various commitments around tax, important tax cuts, which is what we want to see. If we're going to get our economy going, we have to get taxes down. So there was the abolition, for example, of stamp duty on property. There was the abolition of business rates for shops and pubs in high streets, and a really big, bold offer to young people, such that the first £5,000 of national insurance that they would be due to pay on their first job will actually now go into a savings account to allow them to get on the property ladder. And I think they were really important things. Our activist base, I think, has been hugely fired up by this. And I'm seeing on the WhatsApp groups, that we have as MPs here, Conservative MPs, lots of stories about lapsed members getting back in touch, wanting to rejoin the party, local associations getting invigorated and reaching out to people to join the party. So I think this will be something of a turning point. There's a long way to go to the next election, but it's been a really, really positive conference.
OK. I spoke to Matt Vickers yesterday, Deputy Chairman of the party, and I asked him, because we were talking about net zero, and he said how you're sort of rolling back on net zero a little bit. But I said to him, when exactly will it come under a Conservative government to the point where you cannot any longer buy a petrol or a diesel car? He said eventually, after a bit of sort of rocking and rolling around it, he said he didn't really know. Is there a target for that under the Tory party?
Well, where we stand at the moment, Mike, is we recognise that energy costs, and particularly electricity costs, are far too high. Now, you can, this Labour government has, by bringing in subsidy payments and carbon taxes and all of those things that load up bills and load up the price of electricity. That's the approach that they've taken to that area. We say that that is wrong. We should be getting those bills down, not seeing them go up. And as to the transition to electric vehicles, clearly, if you can get the cost of electricity down, that is a good driver, if you're, pardon the pun, that is a good driver of getting electric vehicles sold. But what we don't think we should be doing is relying on all sorts of subsidies and the tax system, which basically load up costs on people.
So is there a point at which, it was 2030 under Boris Johnson at one point, that was going to be pushed back to some stage, because, it's coming up to 2026 now. People are thinking about buying a car. They're not quite sure what sort of car to get. They might keep it for 10 years. Can you tell people that if you get back into government, say in 2029, what point would people be told you can't buy a new petrol car?
Well, we currently, our position is that 2035 is the year by which the EV targets that are being imposed on manufacturers should be met. But I think there is a new point here, which is that the market will ultimately determine, in large part at least, when that moment arrives. And we can accelerate that actually by getting down the cost of electricity, so that those that are buying these vehicles know that they're able to run them economically and in a cost-effective way, rather than being loaded up with carbon taxes that makes the whole thing that much less attractive to those who want to buy those vehicles.
Right. So, forgive me for banging on this particular drum. So you're saying at some point or other in the future you will ban petrol cars?
Well, where we are at the moment is that policy is being developed further in that area. We've made an important statement clearly about getting electricity prices down by getting these subsidies and taxes off people's backs, and I've just focused on that. In terms of further policy around the manufacturing of vehicles and mandation of the manufacturers themselves, and that's clearly something that we will have further clarity on.
So you don't know either?
The action, but no, what I didn't quite say that. What I said,
you sort of have.
Well, no, I said the current position, and this is a very clear position, is that by 2035, it was originally a 2030 target, you remember, Mike, and we said that was too aggressive, so we took a position which was to move it to 2035. But the bit that I'm also saying in addition to this is, of course, policy in all these areas is under review. We've got an election in 4 years' time, and these are kind of questions that you're quite legitimately asking that we will be looking more closely into. But as things stand at the moment, the announcement we've made is about getting prices down. And to give you an idea, it would be worth about £165 per family saving through the measures that we've announced, or if you're a pub, on average about a £5,000 reduction in your electricity and energy bills for running that business. So I think Claire Coutinho and her team have made some really important announcements here.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, listen, Mel, good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed.